Hey, welcome back to day 2 of the C-Space Studio here at CES 2025. This is our live streamed series of conversations with leaders in advertising, marketing, branding, really about the future of human connection, the people who are dreaming it, the people who are building it. And my name is James Kotecki, happy to be your host for day 2 of these conversations, and very happy to be joined by the CTO of Pinterest himself, Mr. Matt Madrigal. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, James. Great to be here.
So Pinterest, people are familiar with Pinterest. We've actually had Pinterest in the C-Space Studio before,
Awesome.
But I always like to get people's individual takes on what the brand is and what it means. So how do you define Pinterest, especially here at the start of 2025?
Yeah, so Pinterest is, our mission is to help people, find the inspiration to create a life they love. And so think about Pinterest and how the platform's evolved. If you think about like the last 25 years of search has been really about text-based search, frankly, extension of command line prompts. Even how users are interacting with these Gen AI chatbots is much more text-based. And really I think about Pinterest as being the place where you can find inspiration, where we can differentiate ourselves, find inspiration, make visual search much more intuitive and personalized, better than any place else on the web.
It's interesting that you call it back to the idea of command line prompts. And I'm not sure that everybody who's watching these necessarily even remembers those days, but you're talking about kind of like the old school computers, right, where it's just lines of text on a screen. Maybe it's like green text blinking like an old school hacker in some 90s movie or something. Yeah. And you're saying that, I mean, I guess that makes sense, is that the people who built Google and all those things were kind of working with that mentality, and now we need a new mentality.
Yeah, that's right. So if you think about Pinterest and what makes the experience so special is that when you come to Pinterest, it's really about visual discovery, inspiration, and from our perspective, it's a really unique user experience where in one consumer experience, you can get inspiration. So for example, if I'm redesigning my home or my home office, I can get cool ideas. Like I'm sure your home office is awesome, and so get some ideas there, and maybe share a board with some of the friends, some of my friends there, and then. But if I find something I really liked it and I want to move forward with that renovation, I can actually then go take action and go buy that. And so in a single experience, so you get top of the funnel inspiration all the way through to to shopping if that's ultimately what you're there for.
And for people who haven't maybe been to Pinterest in a while or just want a refresher on what the search interface actually looks like, what would it really mean to shift our mentality to a visual first, visually based search? Are we talking about taking a picture of something and finding something similar? What does that mean?
Yeah, so visual search on Pinterest, it's a couple things. One is, we've made everything on the platform searchable. So if you see an image or a pin that you like, you can just highlight a certain section. Our computer vision AI technology will then render similar options there, show that, and we have full multimodal search capabilities, so you can also refine with text as well. I think what really differentiates the Pinterest search experience, though, is that it's highly personalized. So we know your preferences, and we'll show you similar products and content that we think you'll like.
So we're here at CES 2025. What brings Pinterest to this moment, this show, and this year?
Yeah, we're talking about our focus for this year, which is we've always been at the forefront of visual search, and we're doubling down on that in 2025 to make it easier for our users to find whatever inspires them, and then also help them shop. So 50% of the users who come to Pinterest, 50% of our 500 million monthly active users are here to shop. Gen Z is our largest, largest group and fastest growing group of users, and so we're really focused on building a great experience for them.
Does Gen Z want or need, other than more and better of what you're already doing, is there a different mentality that you need to have when you're building for Gen Z? Do they want different things?
Yeah, one of the things we've talked about is at Pinterest, we want to take inspiration to action. So wherever you get inspired in the process, you can take action. Again, if you want to save something, save something to a board, share it with your friend, or ultimately end up shopping. What Gen Z also likes about us is the positivity, and we've talked about being the positive corner of the internet, and all of our AI models are tuned for that. And so that's one thing that we've it's a big point of emphasis for us.
And I think that's been consistent with conversations we've had here with Pinterest in the past, is that idea of a positive space on the internet. How does AI fit into all of this for you? And I know that's a very broad question. In some ways, it's a very general question. So I want you to take that however you want in terms of what's top of mind for you with AI and how you're incorporating that into what you're doing.
Yeah, it's a great question. So a couple things. One is, AI just makes the experience better for our users. And so if you think about visual discovery, where we can take a combination of generative AI and proprietary Pinterest models, what we can do there is help users understand what their tastes look like that they may not even be aware of. So for example, we can take an image's words out of text that we see on search platform to really decode what an image's style, taste, and materials, and so you could come to the site and say, oh wait, I didn't realize I was into this earth tone color palette, and then find similar options with that. And so just improving the experience, and then for our advertisers, using AI to create better performance tools. So we just announced Pinterest Performance Plus Creative. We've seen really great results, and the concept there is generative AI powers custom pin backgrounds based on what the users want to see. So we've had some use cases like Walgreens, for example, used Performance Plus Creative with a subset of their ads. Saw a 55% increase in click-through rate using these AI backgrounds that are much more about like a lifestyle image versus like a white background.
And those backgrounds are, or could be in the future, also kind of customized for the individual user based on what you already know about their interests.
Exactly. In fact, they are actually, and that's what's so awesome about this product, and a lot of our investment on the ad side, which is just on the performance piece, where how can we connect advertisers, and using that the ads is really great content for our users, and so we'll continue to invest in that.
What philosophy, guardrails, rules do you have for the company around the use of Gen AI to make sure that it's happening the right way? I imagine in an image-rich place like Pinterest, and you have generative AI that can create all sorts of images, there's probably some policies and philosophies that you need to have in place.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's core to everything we build in our platform. So we talk about positivity, and we're always tuning the algorithms to make sure that we're optimizing for not time on site, but time well spent on site. And so that's where, again, just enabling the inspiration to take action if that's what the users want. So we have our models tuned for that, both proprietary models and then other Gen AI things that then we also obviously have human review too, just to make sure that we are, again, holding that standard of this positive corner of the internet.
What does human creativity then mean in the era of generative AI?
Yeah. I think Gen AI is I think it assists and enhances human creativity. I think about, some of the Gen AI backgrounds I mentioned with, like the pin backgrounds with Pinterest Performance plus Creative. That can happen at a scale that frankly, that'd be hard to replicate, with humans, and it creates that really engaging content. Again, the Walgreens example I gave with a 55% improvement in click-through rate is one example.
Is there something that you're building today, and maybe what we're already talking about already is this, that feels like sci-fi, feels like cutting edge?
Yeah, we've talked about multimodal search, and a couple of things that we're doing is, if you just imagine if you see something you really like, but you don't know where to find it. And some of the things that we're doing by combining the best of what we see from image search, helping users go from taste to actual product that they might be interested in, and then generating these collages and auto collages that can be shared out. There's some pretty cool stuff that we're building out there that's got us fired up.
If you were to define 2025 in a phrase, 2025 is going to be the year of what?
Discovery. Visual discovery. It's all about discovery.
And we're here at CES. It's a land of CES is a show that's all about discovery and all different types of technologies and industries kind of bumping up against each other and all sorts of creative ideas happening. What inspires you beyond the day-to-day work that you're doing and even beyond your industry? What inspires you when you're thinking about the next innovation?
Yeah, I think about like how I search on the web, or how I see my daughters, for example, use different tools to find what they're looking for, and it always starts with images. 50% of our brain is wired for visual processing, and there's so much opportunity there. You couple that with how we personalize the experience on Pinterest, and that's what's got me really excited about the future of what we're building out.
A lot of the people that I talk to here in the C Space studio are probably millennials, Gen X, maybe even above.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the next generation having a bit of a different mentality. Have you found in talks with customers and brands that you're working with that you need to kind of shake them a little bit and say, hey, you need to have a different mentality when it comes to reaching this group? The things that are maybe intuitive to you are differently intuitive to other groups.
Yeah, I think a lot of the fundamentals, especially if you take it from an advertiser perspective, about some of the concepts around performance, those are similar across the board. And I think what we're trying to do at Pinterest is, really helping those advertisers, for example, find just the users and bridge that gap, and that's where the visual discovery comes in, where maybe text can fall short because, again, you got to know exactly what you're looking for, whereas with discovery, there's something that can grab your eye or an attention from an image. You don't know what it is. Our job is to create the words to communicate what that is.
Wow. Well, Matt Madrigal, thank you so much for your confidence in my home office, and thank you for joining us here from Pinterest in the C Space studio. We really appreciate it.
All right, can't wait to see the home office.
Gonna have to pin that up. Well, this is the C Space studio here at CES 2025. We are just beginning day 2 of our conversations. I'm James Kotecki. Keep it right here because more is coming up right now. Welcome back. You're with me in the C Space studio here at CES 2025. My name is James Kotecki, and Jed Dederick, Chief Revenue Officer at the Trade Desk, is joining us for this next conversation. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, James, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So the Trade Desk, can you just start by defining the brand, what you do, and what it means?
Yes, the Trade Desk is a champion and a gateway to the open premium internet. So we are a demand-side platform. We focus on representing buyers in the programmatic media landscape, focus on a more fair and transparent premium open internet, and this is an amazing place for us to come together with our partners, with our clients, and I feel like the premium open internet has never had more momentum.
Let's get into those terms, open and premium. And if you, it sounds like those are really important terms to you, so
yeah.
I wonder if you can just go through them one by one and just explain a little bit more about what you mean by those terms.
Sure. Well, a lot of my philosophy and our philosophy is we invest in the places that we think represent the best of what humanity has to offer, and where people invest their time, not as much where people waste their time. So premium content, quality content, for a long time has been struggling to find its monetization model between subscriptions and ad funding and hybrid models. And the Trade Desk really focuses on building the ad-funded models behind premium content. And in order to do it, we believe in being open, fair, and transparent, because we want everybody to have the opportunity to build competitive ad products, to differentiate off of their engagement, off of their data, off of their ad inventory that they offer. So for me, yeah, those concepts of open and premium, they really come together. You can't really have one without the other, in my opinion.
Can you give us an example, or maybe some examples of the kinds of content that you're talking about here? Especially, I'm curious, content that may have previously struggled to find a monetization model, as you said, and now that you're helping to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love that. That's a great question, and it's well timed with our announcement this CES, accessing live sports inventory programmatically with Disney. Live is having such an incredible moment as sort of you think about live television experiences transitioning from your traditional cable and linear over to the streaming platforms. And programmatic is right there, and the Trade Desk is leading at the forefront of buying live programmatically and streaming. So that's what our announcement with Disney is about today. We've been after it. We're representing the major leagues and having access to those games. I loved seeing what happened this past year with the Olympics, with the Trade Desk as a sort of exclusive programmatic partner, as the Peacock app carried the Olympics and did an incredible job. So those are places where 2 years ago, the ability to buy live sports programmatically alongside your digital audio, your digital out of home, your broader connected television buys, it wasn't as possible. And I think this CES marks a lot of progress.
Is the live streaming technology itself the bigger challenge at this point in some cases, or is the ad tech? Is it the ad tech? Is it the streaming tech itself? Where does the challenge lie now for the next step?
I think it depends who you ask. I think now I might get into the weeds and start being like a programmatic geek.
Please
so
do.
feel free to pull me back.
If there's any place you can do that, I
is that
think
true?
This is a safe space for that. Yes.
Okay. You might be sorry you said that. But
I'll play you back out if we get to.
No. I mean, if you go to the streaming platforms and you look at them, they're all having a different experience introducing live. So we don't, the direct consumer part is really their business. So I'm sure that they would have one answer to your question. In terms of advertising, when you think about running on live sports, it's a very dynamic ecosystem where things like forecasting are challenging, things like pacing are challenging. So what we've done
in other words, when are they going to take a timeout?
When are they going to take a timeout?
Will they go into overtime?
Maybe there will be a really exciting moment where you get major tune-in, where you get millions of new people, or maybe Taylor Swift shows up to the NFL game, and suddenly you have so many valuable impressions you didn't know you were going to have a moment ago. So what we've done is build a lot of the back-end infrastructure to do live, we think best in class, and now seeing the biggest in the world and the biggest events in the world, like the Olympics, coming on board, it's exciting to see.
And is live really where it's at for you as far as the focus of the future?
No, well, yes, but that's
yes
one
and.
of, yes and, I like it. Improv background?
Exactly.
Very nice, me too. That is one part, but Trade Desk has always believed that in the future there aren't point solutions and point platforms. There's really one overall marketing spine behind the omni-channel open internet buying. So, I mean, honestly, I'm as excited as I am about live as what's happening in digital audio. And we're also, we're on stage this week with Spotify. We've had some incredible progress in our partnership with Spotify over the past 2 years. So I think the other place that, I'm excited about all of it, but the other place that the premium open internet, I think, stands to really blow up is in digital audio. I think that ecosystem is really ripe for a lot more ad share. Yeah. A lot of it's been locked in siloed kinds of buying, but similar to the dynamics within live television, putting programmatic advertising on digital audio, on podcasts or on streamed music, it has its own nuance, and that back-end work has been done. Yeah. And so when you see Spotify announcing their integrations with the Trade Desk on UID2, on OpenPath, that's the infrastructure that allows us to put the most effective digital audio advertising, I think, ever, with partners like Spotify in 25.
It's an interesting difference with digital audio in terms of the nuances of it feeling like a more intimate thing, and the idea of audio maybe not going as viral. If Taylor Swift shows up at the Super Bowl, you better believe that on X and on all social platforms, people are going to be taking pictures of that or video clips of that. Yeah. If somebody says something really fascinating on a podcast, maybe I would text it to a few friends, but it doesn't seem like it has the virality, but it does have that level of intimacy. So how do you think about these two things?
Well, it also has scale. Mm-hmm. I think, to me, the biggest dichotomy is how much global ad share is going to streamed audio versus how much consumer time it gets. People spend on average 2 hours a day in digital audio in the United States, but you look at media plans and you wouldn't know it. It really is not representative of the split with video. So for me, it has consistency, it has staying power. It's a lot like the way people have consistently thought about television, less live. And people more and more, myself included, start our mornings with podcasts, end our day listening to music on the way home. And the other thing that for me is really exciting, I think Spotify's done an incredible job building a subscription and hybrid business. Yeah. As they really lean into more ad funding, I think the ability to access Spotify all over the world for every person just gets more and more, which huge music nerd here. So that's super exciting to me, and I feel like we're supporting it.
And what's the interface? What's the cutting edge of the interface, or the experience, I should say, for the ad buyers, for folks who want to actually reach these audiences? How much is your technology and your goal to kind of make that easier and less complicated?
Yeah. So much of the goal. I mean, we exist in a world of massive fragmentation. We say fragmentation is our friend. We bring it together and make it easier and try to create better ad product, more liquidity in the premium open internet. And so I think that's a huge part of it, making it simpler. We want our partners to be able to come in with whatever creative assets they have, but also be able to iterate within platform. We're doing major investments in platform creative in 25, and reach their audiences wherever they are. I mean, it's really too bad right now that so much of the opportunity to reach your audiences across the Trade Desk is limited by whatever creative asset you have. Mm-hmm. And so we want more and more to think from a lens of audiences. I mean, we've been very clear for years that we believe in the long-term viability of one-to-one addressability, and our investments have set us ahead there. So I think that all of that together means, let's think about finding the right people, and we're going to create this very, very rich ecosystem of premium content where you may find them. Let's be ready for wherever they're going to be.
And will generative AI help to solve or mitigate some of those creative challenges?
Absolutely, yes. And I think if you listen to podcasts, you really have seen generative AI and automated creative generation in streamed audio take off. I mean, it's extremely common for me to be listening to a podcast ad and just not know whether or not this is a human or who's reading the ads. And but yeah, I think it in many ways, because it's just isolated to audio, the professional application of generative AI has happened faster.
Are we getting into host reads and things like that too, or maybe a segment of the podcast
Yes.
hosted but could also be personalized through generative AI?
Yes, I mean, host reads are already a part of what's available programmatically in our partnership with Spotify. So yeah, so much of that is that weedsy back-end infrastructure that I worry about. I'm gonna worry about that so that our partners don't have to think about it, that it's there, it's available, and we have a win-win of creating great advertising and funding the best content in the world.
Well, thanks for finding the fun with us today, Jed Dederick.
Absolutely.
The Trade Desk, we really appreciate it.
It's so nice to meet you. Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us. This is the C-Space Studio here at CES 2025. I'm James Kotecki. Stay with us because more great conversations are just ahead. welcome back to the C-Space Studio. I am James Kotecki. We are here at CES 2025, and more importantly, we are here with Travis Howe, Global Vice President, Global Head of New Product Solutions at Samsung. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So people, especially people at CES, I mean, Samsung is a well-known brand. It is a stalwart here at CES. But tell us about your title and kind of what you're up to at Samsung.
So I was brought into Samsung to really think about ad innovation. So when we think about the plethora of devices that we have and how consumers engage with those devices, certainly marketers are interested in figuring out how they can reach those consumers. And as we see consistent acceleration of innovation on ads, my role here is to figure out where are we going to identify the next new trends and develop ad products around those that create a real personal connection between our devices and the people that use them.
Okay, so what are you telling people here at CES 2025 along those lines?
So I think that there's real 4 themes that we look at when it comes to Samsung ads. It's reach, performance, action, and context. And when we think about those, we always start with reach. Given that we've got the #1 TV brand in the world, we would still recognize that the television is one of the best places to drive brand awareness. But then when we also think about our TVs, we're also thinking about performance. Advertisers are more increasingly looking for full funnel opportunities, not only brand awareness, but how can you use the television as a conversion or transaction mechanism? And then when we think about action, you hear terms around gamification. But when I think about action, it's more about how do you turn brands into interaction or interactivity? And so how do you create a more leaned in experience as it relates to marketing, and then context? I think we always hear marketers talk about the right brand at the right time, but we're also thinking about the measurement or impact it can have when you're delivering an ad in contextually relevant spaces. So those are 4 of the bigger themes that we're talking about this year at CES.
So let's imagine a scenario in someone's house that incorporates all those things together. So if things go right and you're doing what you want to be doing and they have the right device in their house, what's an example of an experience for a customer where all those 4 things are really clicking for them?
I think it happens across the customer journey, but if we use our televisions as an example, certainly from the moment they turn on their television, we want to be delivering them advertising messages that are relevant for them. And so when they turn on their television, that could start with content discovery, right? And creating brand awareness around the content that we think they want to watch. But as they go through their user journey on our devices, for example, going into content, we want to continue that in there. And as we mentioned on one of our core themes, that's more than just brand awareness. We want to make sure that we are giving them the mechanism to, 1, lean into some of those ad experiences and create a more interactive experience with those brands. And then lastly, when we think about full funnel, giving them the opportunity to figure out where they can conduct that transaction on that. And so it's following them on their entire user journey, whether it exists on their television or what that relationship looks to mobile phones. And if you take it even one step further, how do we continue that customer journey when it lives on their home appliances, those appliances that are connected to the web?
Home appliances, which may also have screens and kind of converging all of this together.
Right, refrigerators being a great example.
Exactly. And so I imagine that was it context? I mean, I imagine that goes along with relevance, right? So the idea of when it's, or not feeling like it's a distraction or a burden to have to click off something and shop the thing that I want to get, but that it's kind of more seamlessly woven into the experience. I feel like I'm not defining this properly, but I'm sure you think about this in very precise terms.
Right, I think that's a part of context, right? I think that if we look at the evolution of advertising, one of the things that digital introduced is the ability to find the exact right consumer at the exact right time and deliver them the right ad. But at times that was independent of the content that ad was showing up on in the ad break, or how that ad was actually being potentially integrated into the content itself. So when we talk about contextual relevance, it all comes down to data. So it's looking at what do we know about that content and how are we putting safeguards around it. One of the things that advertisers want the most is brand safety. And then using that data that we have in addition to the data that the advertiser has and bringing those together, finding that appropriate intersection of you watching your favorite television show, recognizing that there's cooking or a particular car that's being driven in that advertising show, identifying that perhaps you might have an aptitude or an interest in learning more about cars or cooking, and ensuring that we're delivering ads that are not only relevant to that content, but relevant to you as a consumer.
And what are the brands that you're working with expecting you to do with AI today? What are you actually doing? What's actually working? What's happening right now?
So when we think about AI, I think about it in a couple different ways. I look back at last year, and I think, personally, I consider 2024 the year of questions. Consumers were asking themselves, what is AI? How do I use it? And what questions should I ask it?
Yeah.
I personally think that when we look at 2025, I think it's going to be the year of integration. As consumers are becoming more familiar with AI, they're asking themselves, all right, how am I going to integrate it into my everyday life? And at what devices should I be using AI? What I find really interesting about that is it's going to change the relationship between the consumer and the devices they use, and will create a much more personal relationship. So as an example, let's look at the television. Television has historically been known as a passive device. I turn it on, I find my favorite content, and then I lean back. I think with AI, what it's going to do is going to change the relationship with your television and make it more personal. You're going to have the opportunity to use your television to search, as an example. And then when we think about that beyond the consumer and think about the advertiser perspective, the advertiser is going to expect us to use AI to get much more precise on reaching the right consumers in the right context, but more importantly, using AI to deliver a full funnel marketing solution. And so for Samsung in particular, what advertisers are expecting from us is keep doing what you're doing in terms of brand awareness, right? We have the #1 television brand in the world. We're the largest TV brand out there. That works. But what they're also saying is, help us use AI to continue that customer journey throughout the entire funnel. So an example of that is mobile and web conversion. We recognize that the transaction or conversion may not exist on the television. But what advertisers are asking for us is, if our ad is driving a conversion or transaction off the television, tell us where it's occurring. And then identify where that attribution is taking place and do that full funnel measurement all the way back. And so I use the word attribution because the conversion isn't happening on the television. The conversion may happen on someone else's website, but credit should still be given to the ad that has been delivered in the right place, in the right context, to the right consumer. So it's really going beyond just segmenting upper funnel awareness and lower funnel awareness and actually putting it all together in a single ecosystem. And so I think for us, advertisers have an expectation of Samsung because of our footprint and because of the number of devices that we have and our ability to follow those consumers to connect all of those dots across their media campaign to take them from the top of the funnel to lower funnel in a connected, closed ecosystem.
And then what does the impact of generative AI have? What is the impact on the creative side of that, on the ad creative?
So generative AI is going to be really interesting. I think that when I look at it personally, I think its application is largely going to be felt in mid and small size companies. You know, your large enterprise companies, they have large marketing departments, they have agencies, they have creative agencies. But when you look at this mid-market or small market, they may have one person doing marketing. They don't have the funds to look at an agency. And so generative AI allows them to, one, become much more efficient in how they're creating their campaigns. But more importantly, it does take some of the guesswork out of it. AI should be providing or unlocking for mid-market and small market, bringing in the data to say, we're going to help you take the right image with the right headline, with the right call to action, and put it all together and test the viability of that and optimize it over time. And so I think when I look at smaller, medium-sized businesses, generative AI is going to give them not only that creative manpower, but also help give them scale because it'll allow them to do things faster and more efficiently.
Maybe smaller companies, but potentially huge long tail opportunity there in the number of companies and the number of advertisements that could potentially impact. I want to ask you one last question about streaming, because a lot of people are streaming on Samsung devices, obviously, so you have a great perspective on this. The streaming landscape continues to evolve. What are the milestones you see as you look out in 2025 for streaming and its evolution?
I mean, I think we saw a lot of movement in 2024. And I think that when we look at 2025, I really look at it in two ways. One, the democratization of television, and the second one being consolidation. So when we think about democratization of television, what we can expect is that there's still going to be smaller players popping up. In addition to that, in the advertising space, we should expect that there's going to be more self-service tools made available. And then lastly, within the democratization, brand safety is going to still continue to be a very hot topic. And so I think that there's a unique role that OEMs are going to play because all of that lives on our television sets.
Yeah.
And I think that what you're going to see is OEMs playing a more important role around figuring out what is the available content, what is the technology that you apply to that, and more importantly, how are you protecting brands and making sure that they go in brand safe environments. And then I think it's an easy layup is consolidation. I don't know about you, but when you turn on your television, it feels like you have an infinite...
A lot of choices.
You have a lot of choices, and somewhat it's paralyzing. Like, I have actually no idea what to watch. And so I think that, and in addition to that, profitability is still going to be a huge part of the economic conversation that's being had. So I think that what we can expect to see are really two things under consolidation. Individual streaming services partnering together, and some of those announcements we've heard this week that allow you to get a single point of access to multiple streaming services. And then I think in addition to that, some are going to have to inherently weed themselves out, right? There cannot be a world where you have a streaming service that isn't profitable, and I think that's where FAST plays a very important role. I think for us, we look at TV Plus. TV Plus is our FAST service. It's the #1 app on our televisions, on the #1 television brand. We have 88 million active monthly uniques, and we're seeing 50% year-over-year growth globally. And so I think that consumers are going to be looking for more cost-effective ways to reach their content. I mean, you hear all the time, like, how many subscriptions do you have? Me personally, I have no idea. And so I think that consumers are going to be leaning in more to
If you don't know, what chance do the rest of us have?
Exactly. Well, I don't know about that. But so I think that consumers are going to be looking for either single points of access into content or more free access to that content, obviously supported through advertising.
Well, Travis Howe, you said that 2024 was the year of questions. For me, every year is the year of questions because I get to do this at CES, but really appreciate you answering some of my questions here in the C-Space studio today. Travis Howe of Samsung, thank you for joining us.
I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. This is the C-Space studio. We are at CES 2025. I'm James Kosecki. Stay here because more conversations are just ahead. Welcome back. You're with me in the C-Space studio here at CES 2025. I am James Kotecki, and I'm joined once again for the second year in a row by Ali Miller, our friend from Instacart, where you are the VP of Ads Product, and we're so glad to have you.
So nice to be back here. Thank you.
Okay, so what is Instacart all about here at CES 2025?
So at its core, Instacart is a grocery technology company. So we are all about bringing the power of online grocery and e-commerce across the industry to the retail partners that we work with 1,500 retailers on our marketplace, to the brand partners that we work with 6,000 brand partners that are working with us to advertise their products on the Instacart marketplace and beyond. Yeah. And so one of the big transformations that we've seen in the industry is, of course, this incredible rise of retail media. There are so many retail media networks out there. There are so many different ways to buy. And so we think that our role is actually to help create a much easier ecosystem for brands to be able to buy in a very trusted way with verified measurement and true AI, generated and ML powered capabilities that can help them to drive results that really matter at scale, not just on the Instacart marketplace, but across the 200 plus partners that we have that are actually using the Instacart ads technology on their own retail owned and operated sites. So that's an exciting moment where we're thinking about making it much easier for brands to buy, and then also offering retailers of all sizes the opportunity to play in this ecosystem.
Is there a specific pain point that comes to mind as you imagine maybe a typical customer struggling to deal with this, and that you're solving?
Definitely. So it can be very challenging for a brand to manage many, really hundreds of retail media opportunities across multiple, across multiple retailers. And so something that we've seen is, particularly from the ease of buying perspective, easy tools, easy access to reporting, easy access to creating great formats and driving results that matter, but also on the measurement side, where data plays such an important role in creating not just trusted advertising metrics, but also providing the opportunity to take the high intent audiences that are on Instacart, the consumer behavior and purchases that are happening on Instacart, and open up those opportunities to reach consumers, whether it's on the Instacart marketplace, off platform with Meta, Google, NBC Universal, or even in store where we have our smart caper shopping carts that are now entering the aisles of the grocery store.
And we definitely want to talk more about that and follow up with you on our conversation from last year about that. But first, I am curious, philosophically, so you're the VP of Ads Product, right? You have a lot of data. You know a lot about advertising, probably more than maybe a lot of the customers that come to you. At least maybe not about their products, but in general. And so when you're building these products, how would you philosophically balance the need for it to be easy with the amount of robust information that you could be sharing with them? And it's like with any engineering or any kind of, you could have a remote control that has 8,000 buttons on it, right? And all those buttons could do something really cool. And how do you balance that out with what the customers actually can use?
Absolutely, that's a question that's very near and dear to my heart. So ultimately, data is not just the thing that you need to provide directly. You need to use it to power something that's valuable. Those valuable things could be outcomes, and those valuable things could be insights. On the outcomes front, we've really been ML first, AI first from the very beginning days of Instacart ads, and so we've really focused on providing access to data through the power of optimization. When an advertiser or a brand is advertising with Instacart, they can choose to just automatically maximize sales, maximize customer acquisition, using the data behind the scenes that we can use to then just find those right opportunities to show their ads at the right time and drive results that really matter without needing to use those 800 buttons on the remote. Another example would be really use case based when we're thinking about taking that data beyond the walls of Instacart and offering it to advertisers who are looking to reach consumers who might be interested in their category or might be interested in their brand and hadn't bought it before. Really focusing on how we can use the data to reach those audiences at that right time, create more shoppable and measurable experiences. Again, providing a lot of granular detail if the brands are interested, but they certainly can just use the ease of setup and management and measurement to reach those audiences at the right time without a lot of work.
And then that's a real challenge, and kudos to you for behind the scenes trying to figure out that calibration and putting as much behind the scenes as you do. Let's talk again about the caper cart. So this is Instacart's well, I want you to define it, but I just know that we had the Instacart Caper Cart here last year,
Yes.
and now we have it here again.
Yes.
So tell me about then to now, what's happening and what's happening next.
So this time last year, we had just announced our intentions to build ads on Caper Carts, and since that time,
And the Caper Cart is what, just for folks
Oh
who
yes,
don't
yes,
remember.
absolutely. I'll start from square one. So the Caper Cart is a smart shopping cart that has a screen in front of the consumer it looks just like a shopping cart, so it's very easy to use and move around. It scans items directly using AI, using computer vision as you put those items into the cart. It has a certified weights and measures program, so you can actually put your produce directly in the cart. And then as you add things to your cart, you're seeing the totals pop up on the screen. And increasingly now, we're able to now offer the opportunity for brands to reach consumers in these very targeted moments. Yeah. So the really special thing about a Caper Cart from both a consumer perspective and from an advertising perspective is that it knows what you've just done. So it knows you've added something to your cart. It knows you're turning into the cereal aisle and you might be really primed for an opportunity to see a promotion for a cereal that might be on the shelf. And so where we've gone from last year to this year is we've actually now built out those capabilities. We're running ads on Caper Carts that can offer those location-aware and item-aware ads opportunities that are useful and dynamically personalized to the consumer, and also really bringing the best of online e-commerce into the aisles of a grocery store that feels really natural when you're actually shopping. So it's been quite a journey, but we're really excited about all the progress we've made.
What's interesting about this is not only does it know what goes in the cart, I, the consumer, I know that it knows that, and it makes sense to me that it knows that, and that there's no, I imagine, there's no like creep factor, like, oh, how do they know all this stuff about me? Well, you just put it in the cart.
Exactly.
So there's no weirdness.
That's actually what I love about shopping data itself, is it's very much based on what you do. It's not necessarily trying to figure out something about who you are, but it's really just responding to what am I adding to the cart, what am I responding to, which items might go together, and then how can that help me build my cart in an easier way, in a way that's probably more fun because I'm also discovering new items as I go.
And now and or in the future, how does the advertising program on the Caper Cart potentially interact with some of these other retail media networks, including in-store retail media experiences?
Exactly. So we're, again, really data is the through line of all of this. So the opportunity to use everything we've built as these foundations on the Instacart platform with our ads capabilities, all of those smarts, all of that AI and ML, that can drive exactly what's going to be creating these experiences in store, in aisle, and also connecting transaction data, purchase data, and closed loop information across all of these different touch points off platform with all of the different partners that I mentioned. Yeah. So there really is a truly connected omnichannel ecosystem that is going beyond just the concept of omnichannel, but really bringing it to life with all of that data. The other piece that's really important here is that retailers work with us across each of these touch points as well. It's incredibly important that as we roll out Caper Carts and we're working with retailers like Kroger, like Wakefern, like Schnucks, they're working with us across the board in many different aspects of the Instacart platform. And so rolling this out in partnership with our retailers and making sure that we're creating a cohesive ecosystem for them as well is really important in making sure that we're driving an ecosystem that works for everybody.
And for yourself and or your partners, what are the next measurement and data kind of milestones that you see that you need, that you want as we head into 2025?
We're continuing to focus on building out really strong measurement capabilities for ads themselves. So we've really invested in sales lift and incrementality measurement. We're really proud of our 15% average sales lift on the platform. We've rolled out advanced measurement like a share of digital shelf metric where brands can understand when they're showing at eye level, whether in ads or organic item placements across the platform. That continues to be a big focus for us. And as I mentioned, taking that power of that data and closed loop measurement off platform will continue to be a focus throughout this year. The one piece that's newer for us, which we haven't done to date, is actually creating new product capabilities that can offer those insights in more of a standalone way where brands can actually have deep insights at their fingertips. So at our booth here in the C space, we actually have some examples of insights that we're building for brands. For example, substitution insights. So when my product is not available, are consumers replacing within the brand? Are they getting a different flavor, a different size? Are they replacing outside of the brand? It gives some really interesting insight into consumer patterns and consumer preferences, stickiness, loyalty, a lot of things that really matter to brands, in addition to just really understanding what's going into the basket and what is behind all of those top line sales numbers that I'm seeing. So we're working on building those out, and there's a lot more to come on that this year. And
I imagine a great opportunity to serve an ad if someone rolls up to the peanut butter aisle and the kind of peanut butter that they want is out. Here's another opportunity. Here's one that many people do replace it with.
Absolutely.
You can actually use that there. Do you have a prediction about the next 5 years? 5 years is a long time, especially at CES. when everything's moving so fast. Do you have a prediction about the next 5 years or so that you think might actually happen that maybe other people don't?
So I mentioned that omni-channel vision really coming to life when you think about, again, data really being the through line with all of this, bringing all those touch points together so a consumer may actually be able to feel, regardless of whether they're shopping in the aisles of the grocery store, watching TV, watching online video, browsing social, if we're still all doing all of those things in 5 years, probably.
Sure.
Those connections between those experiences could actually feel truly personalized and dynamic and know about what I'm interested in, regardless of how I'm shopping. That future is not that far away. We're already working toward that now, and there are many ways in which that's already coming to life. What's exciting for me is that if I imagine that really scaling and really coming to life in a big way, you can imagine how that could actually give insight all the way up from the supply chain on down, creating more efficiency, a better feedback loop in the industry for everyone involved in food, in grocery, in production. Yeah. And the part that is really important to me is that at the end of the day, this isn't a cold, hard, data-based ecosystem. This is really helping people get the food that they need to get on the table. This is like helping them get essentials for their households. Literally a kitchen table issue. Exactly. So it's really rooted in the humanity of what people actually want and need and how they'll live their lives, but hopefully just in a much easier and more connected, efficient way.
Part of your humanity is that you're a violinist. We talked about that last time you were here in the C-Space studio. Because you're a friend of the show, I'll put you on the spot. What kind of music best describes CES?
Oh my goodness, that's a really good question. I think, okay, I'm going to go, this is maybe a stereotypical answer, but I would go with jazz. Okay. You know, there's a little bit of improvisation here.
Yes.
There's a little bit of something new and exciting, something a little unexpected, but it's still kind of rooted in the strong drumbeat of things that we really understand, the expertise in the industry. And so I think if I had to choose one, I'd go with jazz.
I knew you'd have a great answer to that question.
Great. I'm glad you asked it.
of Instacart. Thanks for joining us again in the C-Space studio.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for watching. I am James Kotecki. We are at CES 2025, and more conversations from the C-Space studio are coming up, so don't go anywhere. Hey, welcome back to the C-Space studio here at CES 2025. I'm James Kotecki, and joining me right now is Ann Frisbee, Head of Global Business Development at AdsWiz. Welcome to the C-Space studio.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so AdsWiz, let's define for people what that is. You're powering the monetization of audio. You're part of SiriusXM. Give us a bit more detail on what you're up to.
Sure. So AdsWiz is the audio technology platform for both advertising and content in the audio space. So my customers, or people that use the platform, are SiriusXM itself, obviously the largest audio publisher, and they use the platform 100%, but also a whole host of amazing other audio publishers. So Univision, the New York Times, Rogers, Bauer Media, which is the largest radio broadcaster in Europe. Just a really amazing list of clients that are really good partners for us. And we're really trying to help grow the amount of spending that's happening in audio from an advertising perspective so that we can help creators make money and ultimately have amazing creative for consumers. And we think it helps their lives and is a really great opportunity for marketers.
And if you could benchmark it in quantitative or even qualitative terms, like where are we now with the amount of ad spending going on there, and how much opportunity is there out there?
Okay, well, yeah, there is a pretty big gap for audio ad spending between time spent and digital media investment. So,
so in other words, people are listening to a lot of podcasts, but there's not as many ad dollars going as you think.
Yeah, so I mean, listening has really been on the rise. Obviously, there's been great content, so people love it. But there's only about 9% of digital media spending going to audio, when probably about 30% of time spent is on audio content. So we think there's a really big opportunity. But we've also come a long way to actually give a viable business model for audio creators already from an advertising perspective. So,
what do you think is behind that gap? What is there a perception that needs to change? Is there mentality?
So it's interesting. I actually think that we're pretty obsessed with television in America, even compared to outside of the US. So in Europe, I find things to be a little bit different where, and maybe because the Queen's address was done by radio, maybe because the culture started well before television. I think that audio experiences are still a little bit more front and center from a media planning perspective. And the radio broadcast space, even outside of digital, is still quite strong and healthy in Europe in comparison to here in the US. I think in the US, the digital space has also really focused so much on CTV and trying to move that, $50 billion from linear TV into digital, that it's taken up a lot of thinking and resources. But we obviously are seeing audio spend grow pretty significantly, and I think that will continue.
And that's an interesting idea, because when you think about content, some content may be moved from linear, where at least in people's habits, moved from linear to connected TV, whereas podcasting, and I'm just totally spitballing here, so this could be completely wrong, but podcasting, a lot of like net news shows, right? Things that would never have, it's not like you just ported radio over into podcasting. It's stuff that never would have been on the radio in the first place. It's all this net news stuff, and maybe that's part of the mentality shift that's happening.
Well, and I do think that podcasting has really opened the eyes for marketers. You now have really big celebrities, both ones that are known like Jason Bateman and Will Arnett and on SmartList, or new superstars like Ashley Flowers with Crime Junkie that have come up.
Who I believe was here or is here at CES.
Who was here, who have come up and now are part of the zeitgeist, right? They're part of the dinner table discussions where people say, oh, what are you listening to on podcasts, right? So I think that is changing the focus and understanding and awareness from brands, and we have seen significant shift over the last few years of more brand advertisers participating and buying into podcast inventory. So I think it is growing the space for sure.
What's your message for audio creators? I assume you probably talk to different groups, right? But what's your message for the creators when you talk to them as far as what they need to be thinking about for 2025?
Well, I mean, I think one of the key things for us is we are really trying to focus on building out an open and independent ecosystem. We're really taking the opposite strategy of a walled garden. We're enabling the most advanced technology that SiriusXM itself uses, and we're licensing that and allowing competitors and any publishers with whatever business they want to build to use that. And so I think there's a real opportunity for all of us together to grow the space. I don't think it's a competition between audio creators. It's an ability for all of us to really build awareness and really understanding of how much audio performs well from a marketing channel. And so that would be my message. If you aren't part of the AdsWiz family, I would love, as a creator who's doing great content in audio, I would love you to give us a chance and talk to us.
And what are the biggest programmatic challenges right now that you're working with? Especially, I mean, even things like a host read, right? Where could generative AI somehow programmatically start to do some of those ads, or maybe it already is? Like, where are we right now? What's the cutting edge as far as what programmatic can do?
Yeah, okay, so there was a lot in that question.
Yes, loaded question.
Loaded question. So I'll step back from a timeline standpoint and kind of chunk it out. So any new digital media opportunities, so this happened in search marketing, this happened with social, this happened with digital itself when the first display banners came out. You have about the first 5 years of that inventory being bought by direct response advertisers, because unlike the brands, they're not like, oh, I need third-party measurement, I need third-party tracking, I need IAB. They are like, let me spend $10,000 and see if it works. And you know what? If you sell my product and it's profitable, I will put in millions of dollars.
Hence the promo codes and all of these
and
ads.
so I think that host-read advertising was just extremely effective from a direct response advertising standpoint, and it funded the creation of a lot of this content, right? We should be appreciative of those advertisers because they take the risk, they get the reward, but they also help us launch these spaces because it takes the brands a while to like get into it, right? I think you now have had more brands, you have this measurement capabilities, you have standardization that's enabled the brands to start participating, and in programmatic is almost a part of that journey, right? Where, so this is a crazy stat. So AdsWiz launched its programmatic offering in the digital audio space 10 years ago. So it's actually quite crazy, and it really took off, I think, initially when Pandora itself began offering its supply to programmatic buyers in 2018. So that's really when the music streaming space really started programmatic. And it was really more similar to kind of in-app programmatic buying. But now, in the last 2-3 years, you've had really premium publishers on the podcast side also putting their supply out for availability. And so that's really kickstarted the growth now, I think, on programmatic buying on the podcast side.
And how has targeting changed and evolved? How precise can you be when you're targeting these ads, and where are we going now?
Oh, yeah, so there's a lot of strategies in place on targeting and changes going on. So we are taking really a two-pronged approach. One of them is to make sure from a platform perspective that we really make it easy to support first-party data. To the extent that a publisher has first-party data or an advertiser has first-party data, we want to make it as easy as possible that they can use that into the space and transact on it. In addition, though, we've invested pretty heavily around contextual targeting. And this really started in the podcast space where the transcripts for the podcast were available, so you could actually build segments off of the full transcripts, right? Rich set of signals, because while we talk about the big shows, there's a lot of niche shows out there about topics that are very precise, right? That give you a really good sense of what mindset a consumer's in. And so we have a long available opportunity from a contextual targeting segments from the podcast side. But this year we also launched mood targeting, which is one of our first forays into contextual targeting on the streaming music side, where you can actually know what are those songs leading into the ad break and what mood does that put the consumer in and how does that impact my creative, right? Because you don't want to come with this jarring creative when someone's doing meditative music or whatever. So
when I'm listening to death metal, I'm not ready to buy a mattress necessarily.
Exactly, so you can kind of fit the experience. And so we've really seen the increase of the use of contextual targeting,
Is my research right that you went to Georgetown University?
I did.
I did as well. So
No way.
you and I
Okay,
have
I
that in
didn't know
common.
that. Okay.
You and I have that in common.
And
so
not probably the same years, but yeah.
Well, I want to ask you this. I want to ask you a Georgetown question because
Okay.
I thought that we could talk about The Exorcist, which is, of course, famously
Yes.
set at Georgetown.
Yes.
So The Exorcist is about a demon. Is there a demon that you would like to exorcise from the world of advertising? Is there a demon as far as a mindset
So it's
or something?
funny, I'm like the most positive person in the industry. Like I feel, so I've been in digital media since 1997, and I love this industry. I've gotten to work on, in my mind, all the fun things. Like I was doing search marketing before Google search ads.
Yeah.
Like I started in mobile in 2008 when the iPhone was launching, right? I don't know what people did in mobile before the iPhone launched, but I got to start with the iPhone. And now I get to do audio in the podcast space. And I work at SiriusXM, which is the behemoth in the audio space with like amazing top talent who really wants to support an open ecosystem. Like I'm a big believer in the open ecosystem. I've never worked at one of the walled gardens. And so is there something I don't like? Gosh, what don't I like? I mean,
I think your answer was indicative, though. I think your positivity exorcised the demon in and of itself. So I think we can end there. That's fantastic. Ann Frisbee, AdsWiz, thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you so much for the time. Really
Thanks for allowing a convoluted Georgetown question. Had to get it in there, folks. Got to have some fun up here in the C Space studio. I'm James Kotecki. Stay with us. More conversations are just ahead at CES 2025. Welcome back to the C-Space studio here at CES 2025. I am James Kotecki, and I'm very excited about our next conversation with Dan Reed, COO of Reality Labs at Meta. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so Reality Labs, the metaverse, VR, what's going on with Reality Labs and Meta's work in the metaverse right now in general? Let's give us a level set.
Sure, it's a really, really exciting time for us. So, this is literally what we changed the name of the company for to Meta.
Yeah.
And we believe that the work we're doing are the next computing platforms, where virtual reality, which is turning into mixed reality, some people refer to it as spatial computing, is really making this transition to a general computing platform that we think over time will be, more effective than laptops or computers. Glasses, AI glasses now, like I'm wearing now, will turn into AR glasses, which we think are the next mobile computing platform. And we're really seeing great traction in both of those businesses, as well as the metaverse, which is the software layer, the experience layer throughout all of it. And really AI, the growth of AI over the last year or two has really transformed this business, where AI is a critical part of our vision here. And so it's a very exciting time for us.
Thanks for letting me try on the glasses before we started rolling here. Can you explain to folks just the basic components of what you're wearing right now?
Sure, so these are the Ray-Ban Meta Smart Glasses. They are, and really they're transitioning to be AI glasses. So they have cameras in here, so they take photo, they take video. They have speakers in the temples here, so you listen to podcasts, listen to music, take calls. But the really exciting thing is the AI in the glasses, where it's not just a chatbot, an assistant, which is of course useful, but that's something you can do on the phone. The AI in the glasses is really exciting because the AI can see what you see, can hear what you hear, it can speak to you privately. So it unlocks these amazing capabilities, which I'm sure we'll get to in a bit.
I imagine a future not too far off where I'm wearing a set of those glasses too, and I get hints about what to ask my guests, and they probably get hints about the answers, whether that's from the AI or their PR teams behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You can imagine a lot of interesting context for that, but I'm curious about the AI component that you mentioned.
Yeah.
So the way that AI is kind of driving this forward, and so I think, I can't remember when the exact name change was, but I know that in conversations of the past here in the C-Space studio, we've talked about the metaverse, we talked about VR, and AI has kind of continued to rise up as a really prominent trend. So now when we add the latest version of AI and generative AI into the mix for the AR, VR, augmented reality conversation, how does that change the game?
It changes the game because it really unlocks, we talk about augmented abilities in this form factor. Because like I described, when the AI can understand your surroundings and speak to you privately while you're on the go without having to pull out your phone, it unlocks amazing things. So one example is live translation. Yeah. So you can be talking to me in Spanish. I don't understand. I don't understand Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, but it will translate it live in my ear. Yeah. And as screens come online, it will translate it on a screen. Yeah. It will give you reminders. So you often forget where you parked your car. Remind you where you parked your car, and then and then bring it back. Live AI is a capability where in real time while you're doing things, the AI can assist you based on what you're seeing. Yeah. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. You can imagine a lot more capabilities that will be coming, like you described, where where it's anticipatory, where it can understand the situation and just give you a little help. So it's really transformed it.
And how much of an overlay now or in the future will the glasses be able to put on the reality that I'm seeing? Will it be extremely augmented or just partially, or could it be? Could I black out everything and just go into my own virtual world?
Yeah, well, I think that's the continuum of mixed reality to eventually AR glasses, right? Yeah. Where mixed reality it's a screen, but it passes through. So the full screen, you can go full virtual, and but you can also do pass through, so you can see the world around you. And there will be a range within the glasses category where these have no display. Over time, there will be glasses with display, and there's slightly different use cases depending on what you're using it for. So I think there will be a type of device for any use case in any type of situation.
Do you think it'll change society or social conventions around the expectations of what the other person is able to hear and see when they're wearing these devices? I know because you told me I have cameras in these and I can hear things in these that you might not be able to hear.
Right.
Does it change social interactions?
It's hard to say. I mean, we're in the very early stages of this. Yeah. what we talk about is bystander signaling is very important to us. So for example, when you take a picture, you see a pretty bright flash,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
If you're taking a video, it pulses. And so, and I think there will be a lot of these norms that emerge over time, to your point, because these glasses do give you entirely new capabilities that are very exciting.
Yeah.
Like the like eliminating the barrier of language when you're traveling is like pretty amazing, right? That's obviously something that as this technology gets better will change. And I do think there'll be a bunch of those things, but it's kind of early to predict exactly what those will be.
And there's so many, more accessibility elements to this that could be extreme benefits to this for people who need, assistance in different ways. There's an obvious.
That's exactly right. No, we're seeing this now, and this is really important to us as a company. We have nearly 4 billion people on our apps, and these literally go on your face. So, making sure that it works for every type of person really matters.
Yeah.
So we have an inclusive product council where every product goes through this, where we understand how it works for a wide range of people. We co-design with diverse communities, with disabled communities, and there's some examples. Like we have a partnership with Be My Eyes on these, which helps blind and low-sighted people understand what's in front of them. And so you can do that now with the glasses hands-free.
Okay, so it sees where you're looking, and it can tell
you
what's
tells
there.
you what's happening.
Wow.
That's right.
Okay.
That's an example.
Before you've had a substantial career at Meta, and before that you had a fairly substantial career at the NBA.
Yeah, that's right.
What have you learned in both of those careers about listening to audiences?
Listening to audiences. I mean, look, these are both consumer brands, consumer businesses.
Yeah.
And so understanding your audience is critical. It just is. And it's funny, the transition we're making in Reality Labs is instructive here because Reality Labs historically has been effectively an R&D department. We are inventing this technology. These things just don't exist in the world. And now we're transitioning to, okay, we need to get very customer focused in terms of different customer segments, different use cases, because now as we're scaling this business and we're looking to sell millions and hundreds of millions of these devices, so we're moving into that phase now. And obviously at the NBA, this is critical to understand who your fans are, whether it's ticket sales or sponsorships or the product on the floor.
Yeah, I think a casual observer of the space might have thought, oh, VR was hot, and then it seemed to have diminished a little bit. And what it seems like, from what I'm understanding from you and maybe other conversations, is no, it's kind of gone, and it's kind of continued to evolve, and now a lot of the focus is on the utility and actually useful things. We haven't talked as much in this conversation. I mean, before when you had me put the glasses on, I told the AI to tell me a joke, which it did, and it was very funny. So there are still fun things you can do with it. But I'm just curious about, right now, is this where the focus of the industry and where Meta's focus is more on the utility side versus the quote-unquote fun side, or where does the fun side kind of fit into it for you?
It's all of the above.
Yeah.
We're human beings, so we want to do things and we want to unlock capabilities for ourselves and improve productivity or whatever. But we're human beings. We like to have fun. We want to socialize. It should make your life better on all fronts. So in mixed reality, these things tend to go in hype cycles.
Yeah,
right? There's a
that's what I'm getting
big
at,
hype cycle around VR, and then it sort of, if you're not paying close attention, it sort of dies down, but the reality of that business continues to grow.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is it's making this transition from gaming, which has been the first major use case in VR, which you understand why, gaming immersively is amazing. And now it's making this transition into entertainment, into fitness, into learning and education, into productivity, and it's sort of over time, again, that's the path of becoming a general compute platform.
Yeah.
And that's happening. We're seeing growth in all those areas. But if you're not in the space, it's admittedly under the radar, but we're seeing the growth. And the AI glasses to AR glasses transition is the same thing. Now we've invented the technology, we have product market fit for this product, and now it's about how do we make them useful, how do we help people become aware of it, how do we tell the story of how effective they are.
I heard a similar argument in the C-Space studio this year on the blockchain too, which people might have thought is a similar kind of thing, but the person who was sitting where you're sitting was like, no, actually this is really useful and it's really pervasive, but just people aren't thinking about it as much.
That's right.
So the hype cycle is really more about what maybe people are paying attention to at the moment versus what's actually being useful.
That's right.
Virtual reality, augmented reality is so much woven into the fabric of science fiction and movies. Is there a piece of science fiction that especially inspires you as you think about what you're building and where you think this is going?
I mean, let's start with Metaverse. Was inspired by the book Metaverse, right? Or Snow Crash, right?
Yeah.
Snow Crash. And so, I think we get inspiration from a variety of different books and movies. But at this point now, we are sort of trying to create our own science fiction in many ways. Like we just announced last fall, what we think are the most advanced AR glasses in the world. We call them Orion. And these are the things that you see in the movies, and like Iron Man, where Tony Stark has the AR glasses, where you have wide field of view displays, holographic displays. You can watch a movie, you can have multiple screens, you can talk to virtually embodied person, and it has all the same capabilities that these do. And so, every movie that you've seen that has those AR glasses and all the capabilities they have, that is really inspiring, and we're building it. I've seen it, I've tried it, it's pretty cool.
I love that quote. We are creating our own science fiction now. Put that up on a poster.
Yeah, there you go. Cool.
Dan Reed, Reality Labs at Meta. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks
today.
so much for having me.
And we really appreciate you watching us. This is the C-Space Studio here at CES 2025. Don't go anywhere, because more great conversations with thought leaders are just ahead. My name is James Kotecki. Keep it here. Welcome back to the C-Space studio here at CES 2025. My name is James Kotecki, and we are live on X. And we are here with the global head of marketing of X, Angela Zepeda. Thank you so much for joining us right now.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, X. It's a very well-known, much talked about brand. You're the global head of marketing. What is your definition of the brand? What does X mean heading into 2025?
Well, for us, it really is this platform where everything in culture, you need to come and check it out on X. So everything from politics to news to sports to what's happening in entertainment. If you want to know what's happening, just not in that forum, but what people are saying about it, you got to come to X to find out. So, you know, it's all about checking it out on X.
And what brings you here to CES 2025 in terms of what your messages are to folks?
So our message is really a couple of things we try to get done here at CES. We try to find out what's really happening in technology and innovation. Of course, we're a tech platform, so we need to know what's happening there. We're also in partnership with XAI, leaders in AI. We want to know what's happening there. We're part of that. But also speaking to our advertisers as well, and how we also are going to partner with them. So we're having a lot of dialogue on that front. So we get a lot done here at CES.
And what's your message to the advertisers, and how are those conversations going this week?
They're going great. We had a great 2024. We're expecting an even better 2025. You know, about 90% of our top 100 advertisers are back on the platform. So we're expecting a lot more momentum. We really did have a fantastic year, and we really expect a lot more momentum with a lot of innovation coming to fruition, coming in the first quarter alone. So there's a lot of excitement happening.
And not to be too navel-gazing, but I imagine live events like this are continuing to be a big part of what's going on the platform.
Absolutely.
Too.
This is what it's all about, is anything that's really happening in the now is where our platform really shows up really strongly. So where there are live events, you can see it streaming live on X, and this is exactly what's happening, in fact, here at CES.
Let's talk accessibility, however you define that. What does it mean to be accessible, and what are you doing to be accessible to folks?
For us, it's about kind of the vision of when Elon actually bought the app, which was redefining what it was from before, which really was a limited character text-based app. It's not that anymore. It really is about being the everything app, being everything to everyone, and we're starting to realize that vision now, where anything you want to do, it ultimately can happen on the platform. So everything from full video tab to X Money to X Hiring, all these things are coming to fruition. So that really makes it a very accessible app, and it's really exciting, and all that innovation is coming very quickly.
Yeah, we're seeing shows. Am I right about that? We're seeing shows be launched on X as like an X first show. Is that right?
Absolutely. In fact, launching today on the platform is Chloe in Wonderland, which is a new video. Well, it's podcast as well, Khloe Kardashian. Her original podcast series is actually launching today. We actually had Alexis Ohanian and Midge Purse. They did the off-season in the fall. This is all original content that is just on our platform, and that will continue to grow into 2025 as well.
Well, it's hard for me to compete with that, but I'm going to do my best.
You're doing great.
How is 2025 then? So 2024 was a good year, as you're saying. 2025 new shows. How else does 2025 look kind of fundamentally different for X?
You know, I think it's just the transformation, I think, of where everything is going. There was a lot of things that happened just in our world. The election had a lot to do with it, with just the change where people were getting their information. You know, people had an opportunity to get their voice out on social media, and I think there was just a huge transformational change in where people were getting their information, and I think that's really what is a lot different, that people's voices and having their voice be the media is where I think we see a lot of change happening, and I think that's what we'll see moving forward and even exponentially happening. Meta made their huge announcement yesterday with them taking where we led 2 years ago in community notes, and we find that really exciting.
Well, speaking of voices, audio content is also a big part of the platform.
Yeah.
So tell me about how you're positioning yourself there.
Yeah, we continue to grow in that area too. Like I mentioned, the Chloe in Wonderland podcast is launching today, and we'll continue to grow in that area as well. People are searching out all kinds of content, whether it's video or audio, and our originals team is helping to build that out.
And live conversations too, right?
Absolutely. We have X Spaces, which is, thank you for reminding me on that, and that's also great content. We'll have actually some of that happening tonight. We're actually, Elon Musk will be speaking with Mark Penn, so that's actually happening on our platform tonight.
Pollster,
that's
who
correct.
Actually, I believe it was 2 years ago, was a guest on this very stage. So it all.
So there you go. It all comes full circle.
It all comes full circle. You mentioned XAI. What do your customers expect from AI I suppose you can answer that in two ways, right? Because you're talking to brands and you're also thinking about it from a customer perspective. What do they expect you to be doing with AI, and how are you delivering with that?
You know, for us on the platform, of course, partnership with XAI, we've put it in the form of Grok 3, which will be coming in this first quarter. Right now, it's free to every person who comes to X. I think it's about usability, making it very user-friendly for consumers to use and making it something that they can bring into their lives every single day. So that's how it is right now on the platform, and it's getting smarter and smarter. So that's where we're going with it. And it is getting very smart very quickly, and it just continues to be a burgeoning area.
Is it an interesting and maybe compelling branding challenge for you as a marketer to be the everything app? It's hard to figure out what the niche is, right? I think, who are you going after with the everything app?
Well, this is where, as a marketer, working with our CEO, Lindy Accarino, we really do want to put out a brand platform that is about this idea of everything in culture, everything that you need is on our platform. And this umbrella campaign of like Check X, that's where you come to get all of this information. And I think once we get this platform and this messaging seated, it'll all make sense. Whether it's technology, the innovation, or the messaging and the discourse, it'll all make sense. Because it is a lot to talk about, so it needs a little bit of some structure on how we do that, but we have a plan on how to do that.
Well, let's throw something else in the mix then, as far as everything goes. Shopping, and the intersection of shopping and media is a conversation we're having a lot here in the C-Space studio. How does that show up on X?
You know, shopping is great. This is where you have consumers with full attention on the platform. We now have an integration with Shopify, and this is a great place to actually capture those consumers while they're there. And this has actually been a great area of success with these small and medium businesses. And so this is an area of opportunity for these businesses to take advantage of. And this, again, is an area that we've regenerated the growth in this particular vertical, and we see more growth moving into the next year.
And I imagine there's potential integrations now or in the future with the content that you're having, the original shows. Someone sees something on a show they like, they can click on it, shop it, et cetera.
100%. I mean, it's just we're at the nascent area for all of this content creation, and again, wanting to rebuild all that again and really get this to get the fire burning again in all this area.
Do you think of consumer attention as a battle that you have to be fighting and winning? And if so, what's your mentality with that?
It is, because there's a lot of screens that people can be actually watching. I think the thing that makes it very interesting for X is that this is where actually people are having a conversation. It's all about engagement, to be honest. So you can be flipping through a lot of screens, but are you really engaging with that content? And so that's what we really love about X, is that people are actually taking the time to share and actually be part of that information sharing and that discourse. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's about how you're really deeply engaging and how you're sharing and replying, and that's where we think that we have a little bit different edge than some of the other platforms.
I have a question I'd like to ask people here, which is, what's something outside your industry that inspires you to innovate? And it's interesting to be the everything brand, right? Maybe there's nothing that's truly outside your purview, but what are some things in your life that inspire you to do the innovation that you do?
You know, I was in the automotive industry for a long time. That's where I was before. I was the chief marketing officer at Hyundai for about 5 years. And you know, that's an amazing industry. In fact, I was told that, you know, everyone who's in auto always goes back to it. And we'll see. But I was very inspired by our CEO. He's just been promoted, Jose Munoz, to the CEO and president globally. He's an amazing leader. That's an amazing company, a South Korean company that constantly innovates into electrification, hydrogen, and all kinds of amazing things. So I'm inspired by traditionally, I would say, like vertical industries that know how to break out of those traditional verticals and what they're doing. You know, being at X, it's a tech platform that's kind of expected to innovate, and I'm very inspired by traditional companies that learn how to innovate in spite of their traditional nature. And so I look to those leaders on how they break through those barriers.
What's been your biggest transition for you, going from cars to maybe something more conceptual with X?
You know, the biggest transition, I think, is just the rapid pace of change that happens every day on the platform. There's a lot of long lead things that happen in automotive. There's a lot of things that happen day to day too. You're running against sales goals that have to happen by, you know, the end of the month, and that happens every day. The same thing happens at X. So there's things that are similar but different. But I would say we react a lot to what happens on the platform every day. I would say that's the biggest difference. But in many ways, there's things that are very much the same. So I don't know if I've just been doing it a long time, but I always say it's the same, but it's a little bit different.
It's still about reaching the right people. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Angela Zepeda, Global Head of Marketing at X, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
And thank you so much for watching. This is the C Space Studio. We're at CES 2025 in our conversations with thought leaders on marketing, media, advertising, branding, and really the future of human connection will continue. So stay with us. From CES 2025, I'm James Kotecki. Welcome back. You're in the C-Space studio with me, James Kotecki, here at CES 2025, and I'm very excited to welcome Rama Vasan, Head of North America Business Marketing at TikTok, and former CES Tech Talk podcast guest, where we've had a previous conversation, now welcoming you to the C-Space studio. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me back. I guess I didn't.
You did a great job.
I did decent the last time.
We want to hear from you again. And
awesome.
I do want to just acknowledge for those who are watching this live that TikTok is very much in the news as we speak. We are going to be talking about all the great things that you're doing on the marketing side, obviously, for business in North America. So welcome, and thanks very much for coming.
Thank you, James. And it's great to be here at CES, where we're having such rich discussions with clients. We had a great CMO dinner last night. So very exciting times ahead for TikTok.
2025 will be the year of what? What's the theme?
So we've been thinking about years in the context of our What's Next trend report, which, by the way, just got released a few hours ago this morning. And in 2023, it was all about the people. I mean, we were just coming out of the pandemic, and it was all about the people and communities. 2024 was all about building resonance with the people, with the communities. 2025, to answer your question, we see as the year of brand chem, or brand chemistry. It's the year of the marketer, which is great because I'm a marketer.
We love that.
But we do love that. But it's this idea in marketing where people always ask you, is there a formula for doing marketing in a certain way to achieve the business goals? And we're happy to say that there is a formula. It's chemistry. It's all about bringing together the right ingredients around creators, communities, creative, and how you engage with those communities, how you listen to those communities that can yield the business outcomes that you're looking for. So 2025 is the year of brand chem. And in this report, we talk about various trends that fuel this brand chem. I'll call out a couple, unsurprising, but AI adoption we see is really big. And AI adoption in a way that complements and fuels human creativity is critical. And another trend is thinking about creators not just through the lens of the handful that you want to work with, because people are multidimensional, their interests are super multidimensional and niche. So how do you work with a whole swath of creators to reach all those different people and their interests?
Can we dive into AI a little bit more in terms of what are the brands who are achieving that chemistry really doing with AI? Because first of all, and apologies, AI is such a broad term, right? But I'm curious to hear you take it wherever makes the most sense for you, as far as what beyond the hype are people doing that's actually working and getting results?
Yeah. So we have a whole suite of AI solutions, automation solutions like Smart Plus, Symphony. I'll talk about them in a second. But to answer your question, what brands are doing really well are leveraging those solutions to, whether it's scale the creative, enhance the creative, enhance the performance. So I'll give you an example. Miyoki, which is a water bottle, they leverage the Smart Plus and Symphony solutions in order to remix the creative. So it's not about just creating new assets, it's about taking an asset and remixing it with Symphony in order to put a new spin on it, which actually resulted in much greater ROAS. So some of it is the big thematics around creative, but some of it could be as simple as take an asset, remix it, add a new element to it, which can get you better results as well.
But it sounds like, especially from the previous year's themes of people and resonance, that you still definitely want to have people involved in this creative process.
Absolutely. I'll give you another example, which is very people-centric. So Nutter Butter, which if you haven't seen the TikTok, I highly recommend checking it out. Completely unhinged storytelling.
But now I'm curious.
Yeah, it's completely unhinged, and you'll see what I mean when you take a look at the TikTok. It's literally a nut brought to life, doing really bizarre things. But what that's done is that it's created such unexpectedly brilliant storytelling. Each of their TikToks has an average of 10 million views. And it's brought such a resurgence back to that brand. And in fact, it's the only marketing channel they lean on. And it's led to an increase in household penetration. So this is my point around human creativity combined with artificial intelligence can really lead to brilliant outcomes.
Do you see that certain brands flourish in a TikTok environment with a certain mindset that they either do or don't bring over from kind of creating for other types of assets or other environments? In other words, could a Steven Spielberg type, maybe that's a totally different mentality for the kind of creative that's necessary on TikTok, or is creativity, and you just need to figure out which vessel to put it in?
I think creativity is creativity. However, what I will say is that on the platform, you really do need to think about how you create it in a way that resonates with the platform. People on TikTok actually enjoy watching ads about 1.6 times more than other platforms. There's a reason for that. It's because the experience is so organic to the platform. Whether it's an ad or it's organic content, it feels like really engaging content. So to answer your question, yes, of course you can bring over other assets adapted for the platform, but you really need to think about how you adapt for the platform. And I think there's also, the platform enables such homegrown, shot on iPhone, brilliant, everyday moments that it resonates really, really well also.
Yeah. Can we talk about gaming for a little bit?
Sure.
What are some of the trends in gaming that you're seeing for 2025 and how that relates to what's happening on TikTok?
So this is not a specific trend to 2025, but we know from industry research, as well as research we've done with Newzoo, for instance, that most games will fail within the first 3 years of launch. It's a pretty depressing statistic. So we, at TikTok, we really see ourselves as business partners to the industry, whether it's gaming or beyond. And so we've created a portfolio of solutions around live ops, which is so important to gaming success. And with live ops, what you're really able to do is engage via creators and communities, really engage in real time to drive better discovery of your games, as well as better downloads, installs, and purchases. And this kind of live ops approach has resulted in over 9 times better ROAS in over 100 campaigns. So we're really leaning into live ops as an offering as to combat this trend of games not being successful.
Yeah, and it's such a noisy space, right? There's so many possibilities and things that people can do.
Exactly.
We talk about measurement also for a minute. How are you helping your clients measure success, and what are the ways that they should be thinking about that?
So we believe that measurement should be much more than just what I would call vanity metrics, so engagement, views. Those are important, not that they aren't important, but it's also thinking about what are those specific business objectives that you're looking to achieve, and what are the right KPIs that we can measure against it. So for example, if it's about commerce, it's about how much add to cart, how much actual purchases on TikTok Shop that we're driving, etc. I'll give you an example. Ray-Ban leveraged our Smart Plus. Smart Plus, by the way, is a solution which enables better optimization, leverages AI to enable better automation of better performance, better creative, as well as better targeting. So Ray-Ban tapped into Smart Plus in order to elevate their creative as well as their performance. And they saw a 47% greater ROAS as a result thereof. So my point is KPIs are all about what is your business objective and what's the right KPI that drives that, and then how can our solutions best address those KPIs.
Are there other, as we look at the beginning of the year here, are there other industry challenges that you're looking out at and thinking about ways that you're going to be navigating that or helping your customers navigate?
Yeah. It's interesting. People now spend an average of 8 hours a day online. I mean, it's crazy. My phone keeps telling me I'm spending too much time on it,
Yes.
but that's a whole other story. Anyway, so 8 hours a day online. With that amount of time comes a really high expectation around the quality of the content that they choose to engage with. Because people now have the whole world at their fingertips. So they're much more discerning about which content they choose to engage with. Luckily, TikTok has emerged as that entertainment destination that people are really seeking. On average, every day in the United States, people spend a movie's worth of time on the platform every single day. And it's not all at once, it's in chunks of time, like quality chunks of time. So thinking about that trend of how people are spending this much time online, we're really creating and innovating a full funnel marketing ecosystem. So yes, it's about entertainment, but it's also about like enabling how people search, how people shop, how people find travel destinations, how people buy cars, etc. So it's really about like how do we have that full funnel ecosystem that can help achieve business outcomes for brands.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot going on with TikTok.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you taking not a movie's length of time, but at least maybe a long TikTok version of time to talk to us today. We really appreciate it. Ram Avasan, Head of North America Business Marketing at TikTok. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you so much for watching us in the C-Space studio here at CES 2025. More conversations are just ahead. I'm James Kotecki. Stay with us. Hey, welcome back. You're in the C-Space studio here at CES 2025. This year we're sponsored by Integral Ad Science, and my name, as always, is James Kotecki. Joining me now is Jeff Clark, VP Product and Commercialization at Walmart Connect. Jeff, thanks for joining us here today.
Hey, James, thanks for having me.
All right, so tell us about Walmart Connect. What are you up to?
Well, maybe we start with Walmart. I think most people know Walmart.
Yes.
Pretty big company, Fortune 1.
People may have heard of it.
People,
yeah.
I hope, have heard of it. Yeah, Fortune 1 company, 4,700 stores across the U.S. We're the largest omni-channel retailer out there. We're also the largest grocer in the U.S. But people do a lot more than buy groceries with us. It's because we are much more than a grocery store. Pharmacy, auto care center, electronics store, et cetera.
Yeah.
And because of this, I'd argue that we know more about how America shops than anybody else out there. Walmart Connect, my division, is the advertising arm for Walmart US. So we take this reach, the first party data, and we enable our advertisers, which are primarily our suppliers and marketplace sellers, to engage with the Walmart customer in meaningful and measurable ways.
And tell us about all the places that advertising could show up within the ecosystem that you're providing, or maybe beyond.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a big part of what we're talking about at CES this year. Our business started as 5 years ago. We're relatively new, but 5 years ago started as a performance platform, helping advertisers drive measurable unit sales.
Yeah.
That's retail media. But as our business has grown, our platform and offering is expanding to do much more than just drive lower funnel sales. We're now very focused on helping our advertisers actually build brands at Walmart. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is our platforms are now doing expanded, we're going much broader from a reach perspective, we're going much deeper from an engagement perspective. And we're rolling out a whole new suite of full funnel, upper funnel measurement tools. So our advertising stripes across everything from our apps, our site,
Yep.
to CTV, to social, and we're working to expand into our store footprint.
And tell me a little bit more about what it means to build a brand. Does that include things like conceptualizing even the storytelling and the creative in a way that may be different than if you're just thinking about performance?
Yeah. First, I'll say that performance is everything, and performance will always be foundational to who we are and what we do as a retail media company, because nobody can really do that except someone like us, and the value we bring is real. But to move beyond that to become an actual brand builder, we need to be helping. First, we need to help our advertisers reach and engage with the Walmart customer in areas where the storytelling is much richer than in search or in display advertising, CTV and social. And so we have our partnerships with TikTok, with Meta, where we're able to take our data, run the campaigns, and then did the advertising drive a sale? Yeah. Did it drive brand lift? Did it drive consideration? Whatever the key metrics might be. So that's a big focus for us as we do that. We want to get more into storytelling. We want to get deeper into engagement, and we need to build the platform, the measurement tools necessary to actually report back. Did it work or not?
And how does this ideally feel? How is this ideally experienced from the consumer side? Can you tell me a story about what it would look like if everything goes well and you execute as you should? What is the consumer experiencing?
Well, let me. One of the things I'm really excited about is in-store, and bridging the digital media in-store activation continuum, especially for someone like Walmart, because we're so big, 3,700 stores. And so imagine a soft drink company is launching a new brand, a new soft drink. We'll set up the digital campaigns, right? So we've got CTV, Vizio. We've got TikTok, Meta. We'll be running the campaigns there. We'll be running it on our O&O properties. But we'll also extend it into store. Okay. And this is something that you're leaning in heavily into this year. And so imagine if you, as a consumer, as a customer, you walk into a store, the soft drink messaging is playing on Walmart radio as you traverse the aisles. Yep. The creative and the messaging is playing on the screens across the store. So think TV wall, deli screen, bakery screen, auto care center as examples. The brand, from the moment someone walks into the store to the moment they check out, they're immersed in the brand. Yeah. And so by connecting these things holistically as a unified campaign, that's a big win for us. And one point I'll make is 85% of retail transactions are still happening in a physical store. So for our brands, for our advertisers, it's a huge unlock. It's a huge opportunity for them to engage with the Walmart customer while they're in the store making that final purchase decision. And that's a big part of why we got to figure out how we bridge these things together.
And now, or maybe in the future, when one walks into the store and sees that advertising campaign that you're talking about on the TV wall, at the deli counter, et cetera, is that for me individually, and then someone else, if they get proximity to that screen, would see a different ad?
Not yet. I'd love to get to that point. Yeah. Today, that we can do geo-targeting, we can figure out which stores have the right demographics, et cetera, but they're not yet tailored to the individual. One area that we're focusing on is at self-checkout. That's an area where we actually do know who you are, because you're likely putting your credit card in or something else. So we know your purchase history, we know who you are, and we can then tailor the ad in that arena, but in other areas, not quite yet.
And you also know what I'm buying, literally, because I'm checking out at the moment. So even if you don't know who I am, you can kind of figure out the kind of profile of the person who's buying peanut butter, and maybe you can recommend some jelly.
Exactly. Well said. That's right.
Is there, we're talking about CTV. Are there streaming milestones that you're looking forward to, or that you're looking at as 2025 progresses here? Yeah,
I would say, I think over the next 12, 18 months, we're going to be seeing CTV campaigns being powered much more with a lot more retail media type data, because it enables a much higher precision on targeting, and it enables measurement all the way from upper funnel, brand lift, consideration, all the way down to conversion. And so being able to bring these two things together in a medium that has historically been about reach and engagement is already proving to add a lot of value to our advertisers, and this is a big reason why Walmart made the acquisition of Vizio.
Yes.
We're the #1 reseller of televisions. That's super important. But really the value that we're bringing to the table here is enabling our suppliers as advertisers to be able to engage with Walmart customers throughout the Vizio network. I think, and that will all be powered by retail media. I think that's going to be a big game changer in the space.
Adam Bergman from Vizio was in the C Space studio earlier yesterday.
Great.
So
nice.
It's been great to have that conversation as well.
Yeah, I'm glad he's part of the family now.
And are we talking about things here like shoppable? Ads become more shoppable when you see them on CTV and they connect to something on a Walmart property. And then if I know that you've watched this TV, I can give you a coupon to go into Walmart and connects to retail media, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think I would say it's still early days. Yes, we're doing that. Our platform is extending into shoppable video, shoppable advertising in video. I think the challenge with that is still removing some of the user. When you're in a lean back situation and watching video, CTV primarily, it's pretty difficult to stop the video, make the purchase, do the transaction, and ship it. And so I think there's definitely a game to be played there, and we have a team that's working on figuring that out. I don't think it's there yet.
Yeah. How hyped are you about this industry? Because this is what I always hear from folks is that it's relatively nascent. As you said, it's still early days, but that retail media is primed to explode. And what's interesting is I have these retail media conversations specifically is just me spitballing here. There's all these obvious avenues that it could grow into and have all this opportunity for dynamic growth. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, retail media is media, right? It's just better. It's more powerful because of the data we have and our ability to, I don't love this term, but our ability to find the right people and then close the loop. Did the people who are exposed to the advertising buy the product? Did they buy it in a store? Did they buy it online, et cetera? And so I've spent my whole career in advertising. The reason I came to Walmart to help start Walmart Connect is for that reason. It's the holy grail for advertising.
Yeah. You've worked at CBS, Google, now Walmart. Those companies maybe at face value to people might seem kind of different, but it occurs to me that perfectly places you exactly at the intersection of where you need to be to do this.
Yeah. I'll say candidly, my whole career has been in media, traditional media, digital media. When I came to Walmart, retail was not my expertise, and retail is incredibly hard. Retail media, times 10. Because you're accountable, it's a double-edged sword. You have to deliver the ads, but you have to actually prove to the advertiser that the advertising worked.
Yeah. Well, Jeff Clark, Walmart Connects, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, James.
And thank you so much for watching us here in the C Space studio. I'm James Kotecki here at CES 2025. Don't go anywhere because more great conversations are coming your way. Hey, it's James Kotecki. I'm in the C-Space studio here at CES 2025, joined once again by our friend, Megan Ram. I hope I can call you our friend. You're a great friend of the show.
Of course, you're my friend. Of course we can.
Megan Ram, head of Americas at Uber Advertising. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me, James.
Now, the Americas, is that North and South America?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
a big swath of territory.
US and C, and we are major markets in Brazil, Mexico, et cetera. So the entire Americas, yeah.
Well, we are so excited to catch up once again. What is your message here at CES 2025?
Yeah, we've made some big announcements. Yesterday, you might have heard our announcement with Delta. You can now integrate your loyalty points with the Uber application.
There was a big keynote yesterday.
Yes. So that's beginning in the second quarter of this year. And then some announcements with NVIDIA on the AV side. So a lot going on from a general business perspective. And we're excited to talk about that and ads too.
Let's talk about the ads perspective.
Yeah.
What are the big themes and trends for you right now?
Yeah, so our business crossed the $1 billion threshold, which was an exciting mark for us.
Number.
Yes, since we last talked. We're debuting, even more of a full suite of products from the rider side to the eat side, performance, as well as upper funnel and brand. We made a major announcement with T-Mobile, 50,000 screens in the back of cars this coming year. So a lot to talk about in terms of the sophistication of our offering, and then measurement is a big thing in terms of our integrations with third-party partners, as well as spinning up more of our own solutions as well.
Tell us about those screens in the back of the cars. When I've had the experience of seeing those screens, they can be ads, they can be interactive things that can also be ads. Tell me more about how those look.
Yeah, so taking a step back, I mean, the average Uber ride is about 20 minutes. So you actually have a good amount of time to be captive in the back of the car. And we're starting to think more and more about what can that personalized experience be. So that could be content, that could be shopping, that could be an add to wallet if you're going to a merchant location. It could be, you know, going and picking up some of your other things on the Eats platform and bringing it to you. So a lot of different experiences that we think about in the back of the car. I mean, the screens themselves are immersive, full screen sound on.
Yeah.
So we also think it's a good creative canvas to tell a longer form story. And then if you look at the psychographic of the Uber user and how they feel when they're in the back of the ride, they're relaxed, right? You're giving them back time. They have like a moment, a respite. So how can we introduce things like games even in that environment to help make the experience even more enjoyable?
So we also want to talk about the on-demand delivery experience, which is also a big part of what Uber has to offer. What's going on with that in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, look, consumer expectations are through the roof, right? And we can get you anything in under 30 minutes. And I think that anywhere around the world, and I think that concept is continuing to fuel the ODD space. Obviously, we started with restaurants and it's grocery and delivery. It's beverages and alcohol, things like that. But now consumers expect a large swath of different types of items getting to them in under 20 minutes. So, you know, big electronics, right? Things from specialty retail, things from beauty. And the minute they know they can get it accurately, quickly, that becomes a basket building behavior that they then start to do more of down line. So I would say consumer expectations are getting ratcheted up, right, for what they expect in that environment. And of course, that's giving them back time in their day to do the things that they love.
And to be clear, the play there is to do something that is branded as an Uber delivery service, right? Or are we also talking about maybe Uber is behind the scenes delivering stuff that I ordered from someone else?
We obviously it's Uber brand in the way that it shows up to you all, but we also are with our Uber Direct product helping a lot of merchants and with our white labeled technology, right, to get things more quickly to consumers. That's a challenge that merchants are trying to solve. Because of the consumer shift in expectations. And if they can do it, great. If they can't do it, we're going to help them get that to the consumer faster in an accurate manner.
I wonder if we can talk about younger generations and how they're using Uber and interacting with advertising. So both from their proclivity to use Uber and then also how they feel about ads. Tell me about Gen Z and even going into Gen Alpha now.
Yeah, I mean, I have some use cases at home. I have some Gen Alphas in my home. I mean, again, their expectations, they're digitally native. Their expectations are very different than mine and I grew up with, right? So they want things more quickly. They want things, a different variety of things, and they expect it. They want it now. I think we're also seeing they have a good loyalty to brands. So with Uber, they might have started with Uber with our new Uber Teen product, right? So they're getting to their sporting event. They're getting in it with friends. They're going to a party. Uber then becomes part of their ingrained behavior as they move on from college into getting their first house and their job and things like that. So we're building loyalty with that younger base earlier, and they're adopting it more quickly because they are a digital, they're used to having things on demand and they expect that.
There was this notion floating around that younger people were slower to get their driver's licenses, and maybe that's partially because they could just take cars to where they needed to go. That earlier generations didn't have the capability of doing. Do you actually see that in the data?
Yes, it is a trend, right? I mean, it's they care about sustainability, they care about affordability, and they're realizing, hey, I can take Ubers where I need to go. I actually don't need to have a car in my city. I don't need to pay for parking or whatever it is. I can share it with my friends. I can get a green, an Uber X. And maybe take that money and do something else with it, right?
And then I also wonder, because earlier generations grew up with advertising as maybe much more of interrupting. I mean, their programming, much more something that was just like loud in the background that your mom would want you to mute or something like that. And now there's an opportunity for it to be much more contextually relevant to folks. So I wonder if newer consumers, younger generations who are growing up, have even just a totally different mindset when it comes to advertising. You're talking about brand loyalty, but I also just wonder if marketers, who are, millennials, Gen X and older, need to almost reframe their mindset when it comes to how these folks are thinking about ads.
Yeah, and also, I mean, they're comfortable shopping right in the ad environment, right? They search differently, they buy differently. A lot of things that we talk to our customers about on the advertising side is no dead ends, right? So from your social, from your streaming, from your TV, how can you drop them into an experience where they can shop and buy if you don't have that capability on within your site? That's where Uber can come in and help too.
I would be remiss if we don't talk a bit about autonomy. And if I'm in the back of an Uber and it's autonomous, maybe that changes my ride experience in the advertising side, but just generally with autonomy, maybe first, what's the cutting edge, what's going on, and what's coming next?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we don't see it as a winner-take-all scenario, right? There's a lot to be gleaned through partnerships, and we've done a number of those, and you'll continue to see us accelerate quickly there, right? We also have a very good historical look at city patterns. Our location data is so additive, so we actually have a good handle on what the experience needs to be in the back of the ride, right, to be complementary to what we expect from the autonomous tech side. So we're partnering, we're moving at light speed in this arena, and of course you'll continue to see announcements that support that tech forward approach to it.
Well, let's talk about another light speed technology, which is artificial intelligence. How is AI changing the expectations of what brand partners have from what Uber can offer, and maybe from the consumer side too, but I wonder if brands are having different expectations given what AI can do.
Yeah, I think we use it all the time in the back end in our business. We have for a long time. I think it's helping things like getting them the data and insights they need quickly to decision and to buy on our platform, particularly with the billions of data signals that we have, helping us organize that and get it in the hands of our brands and our customers so they can action on it. Major use cases there, and of course you'll see it in our general business applications too. How do we get accurate pictures with the couriers picking and packing in store? How do we have more streamlined efficiencies in certain parts of our actual delivery and mobility businesses, and of course using AI for a lot of those core business functions as well.
Yeah. Are you thinking about using it to create ads on the fly for folks?
Yes, we certainly do it. They can bring those ideas to us, and I think where we're also seeing it come through is in the data that we can provide to help them get insights to generate the AI advertisements more quickly. So a mix of yes, we can do some of that, but also using the signals to customize it.
And I wonder if you're so well positioned there that I wonder if it even really needs to be that much generative AI for it to still be better than what you might have otherwise, because you do know their location, you know where they're going, and so you can, just with some basic information, kind of maybe create something that's semi-customized.
Yes, I mean, we talked about this last year. Our billions of signals are now about 3 billion quarterly, right? Wow. So that is high fidelity global location data, that's purchase data. All of that, again, can be used as signals to, to purchase advertising, but also as insights that the brands can take away to inform their general business and their market share and other key metrics.
Everything is evolving rapidly. Do you think there's any huge step change in 2025? Is there something that's going to be radically different that you're looking forward to?
No, I think we're going to see obviously some consolidation. There's a more friendly environment for that. It's an M&A, right? And we'll see what happens there. And also the pace of change continues to get more and more aggressive for the brands to play in. So we will continue to advise brands to move quickly when you see trends in order to capture on that shopping behavior and that share shift behavior that they're making.
Last question. I believe one of the Uber values is build with heart. What does that mean to you?
You know, I think build with heart on the consumer side can mean that we're building something that inherently is like delighting and creating magical experiences for the consumers in their everyday life. So you see that in our products. You'll continue to see that in how we show up for the consumer, giving them time back to live their best local life. And how we see it internally and how I see it with my teams is that we're rolling up our sleeves. We're trying to understand our brand's challenges. How can we solve their business challenges and build with them, co-create with them in a way that that brings our hearts into what we do for them. So it's a consumer value that we have, but also an internal value, and we share it across the board.
Megan Ram at Uber, thanks for sharing your heart and mind with us in this interview today. Thanks so much for coming.
Good to see you.
And we really appreciate your time today in the C Space Studio. My name is James Kotecki. This concludes the morning streaming session from the C Space Studio, but an entire afternoon streaming session is coming up. So wherever you're watching us live, make sure that you stay here and catch all the conversations that are coming your way here in the C Space Studio. I'm James Kotecki at CES 2025.